Good morning, welcome to our Live Talk program. This is Lloyd Gub here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our Live Talk program covering wisdom for living on this year, Friday morning, rise and shine. And this morning here, I'm looking at the topic, squeeze as much goodness and greatness out of life, or out of this life. Squeeze as much goodness and greatness out of this life. And as you know, this is the only life you have. So welcome. Hopefully you'll have a blessed night rest and you're ready to take on the challenges and grab some opportunities that come your way this day. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of your word, for the blessings, dear Lord, of this day and life. I pray that you may be with me and be with those who are listening as they either travel or get going on their day. That you may bless them and bless them with a productive day. May you be with us now as we meditate upon these words for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking here with you at Ecclesiastes chapter 6. Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and my topic is squeeze as much goodness and greatness out of this life. And so I'm going to read through Ecclesiastes chapter 6, and there's one particular verse at the end that I wanted, really the only verse probably I wanted to talk about, but the rest of it is taken in the same concept, the same theme. So I think I'll just read through for continuity or for context, and then I'll read probably double the last verse of Ecclesiastes chapter 6. And then I get into my talk here this morning. What I want to share with you, a wisdom I believe that is important for you to consider about squeezing as much goodness and greatness out of this life as much as you possibly can. And not only because we have one go around, but what's the point if you're not getting as much as you can? Fly as high as you possibly can within the perimeters of what the Bible said, as the Bible says that if you run, you must run lawfully. So Ecclesiastes chapter 6 and verse 1 onward, we read, "This is an evil which I have seen under the sun, and it is common among men." So this is very important. He said, well, there's something I'm observing and it's common among men. And this is what we want to talk about. It is common among men not to squeeze as much. And I think the devil has confused people that if they're going to squeeze as much life out of this life, then normally it's associated with drugs and alcohol. But you want to fly high, but you don't want to fly that type of high. You want to fly a different type of high. And so in verse 2, it says, "A man to whom God had given riches, wealth, and honor, so that he wanted nothing for his soul of all that he desired. Yet God giveth him not power to eat thereof, but a stranger eateth it. This is vanity, and it is an evil disease." The person does not enjoy all the blessings that they have. Somebody else takes it and enjoy it. Very sad. Verse 3, "If a man begetteth 100 children, and live many years, so that the days of his years be many, and his soul be not filled with good, and also that he have no burial, I say that an untimely birth is better than he." So a person, a lot of kids, you think in the funeral it's going to be like packed, there's going to be mourning, and the person really didn't enjoy good. So here's why I would say you squeeze as much goodness as you can out of this life, and you take care of you, and make sure that you're blessed as much as you possibly can. Because again, he says here, a person who have all of this and have all these blessings and never really enjoy it and never really even get a burial, this person better they were not born, because nothing happened. Like they never existed, and that's how people around them treat them. So verse 4 says, "For he cometh in with vanity and departed in darkness, and his name shall be covered with darkness." Because you'd be like, wow, what was all that about? Verse 5, "Moreover, he had not seen the sun, nor know anything. This had more rest than the other." So a person who never was born, never exists, is done better. This is where many people don't accept. They don't accept that you could live a life, and at the end of the life, when you die, it's like, what was the point? Ain't nothing there. Nothing there that one could say, what was the point of that? Literally, that's what he's talking about. And he says an evil that is common. I've talked to people and they, no, there's this, some via there. Solomon saying, don't see no via there. What's the point? He said a person was never born, is in the same situation. Actually, it's better. Now, it continue here. "Yea, though he live 1,000 years twice," that means he lived 2,000 years. "Yet had he seen no good, do not all go to one place. So we all gonna die and no see no good. What's the point of living 1,000, 2,000 years? This is something that, as I say, we're gonna talk about because this is something I've thought about many a time. What's the point if you're just living and you're not seeing no good? What's the point of that? That's just torture. And verse 7 says, all the labor of a man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. Well, filled temporarily. Verse 8, for what hath the wise more than the fool? What hath the poor that knoweth to walk before the living? Better is the sight of the eyes than the wandering of desire. So, in other words, if you have the things better than you desiring and pondering that desire, neither desire it that this is also vanity and vexation of spirit. That which hath been is named already, and it is known that it is man. Neither may he contend with him that is mightier than he. Seeing there be many things that increase vanity, what is man? What is man the better? For who knoweth what is for new this is not the text, verse 12. For who knoweth what is good for man in this life? All the days of his vain life which he spendeth as a shadow. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? So verse 12 is something that I don't know if you've thought about it much in your life. And I'll tell you what it is, what I think it is in a second. But this is something I've thought about a lot. And what it is in is that last phrase he makes. Is the whole chapter, all 12 verses, powerful 12 verses here in pondering life. That makes, I think, a lot of people get depressed. But it is powerful to ponder and to readjust your life accordingly. Verse 12 again, in the last part first. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? So as you're living, you can be so caught up with 10 years, 20 years from now, what's going to happen at retirement. And you should think about these things. But the Bible says, give us this day our daily bread. And the bread you're eating, hopefully, is some nice home-baked bread, some artisan bread. But anyhow, so you have today, and you have your current. That means most of what you're doing today will affect not just what you're doing 10, 20 years from now, but you enjoy some today. And as I say, it's nothing to have a nest egg and all that. But how is your life now? The concern for what's going on now. And all the time when people are thinking, they're thinking to the future, and that you should. But he says, who will know what will come after him? Right? So I think this thought here goes two ways. One way could go, it goes three ways. One way you could don't think about it. All right, just never thought about it. One way you could go is that a person says, since I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, I just consume everything that I have and I just try to live life to the fullest. And then 10 years from now, I'm in trouble. So that's one way, one extreme. Another way I've thought about it, though, is this, right? Which is the main premise for everything I'm going to talk about for the next few minutes with you here, is when you think about how life goes, it's you could build an institution, you could be part of a revival. You think about the great men in Earth's history, that often, almost all the time when they die, whatever work they did die with them. And few of them probably will continue one generation after. Very few. It doesn't go deeper. And so the question, when he asks the question after reading the Bible, looking at history, I think I have the answer for the question. For the most part, you don't know, and nothing good going to come after you. Whatever good you do, it dies with you. So it's to me, for that reason, my topic is squeeze as much goodness and greatness out of this life right now, at this moment. And you still have to do some things for the future, but what's going on with your life now? Ease the pressure off you. Don't always put it, it's one thing to go to one extreme where you live and you're taking drugs and all that. We're taking that off the table. You're just living wild and crazy and you destroy your body. And 10 years from now, you're going to come down with some terrible disease if you live to see 10 years from now. So not that, but the whole idea that a person could not enjoy basic human comfort, basic human joys, because probably they're trying to build an empire. They're trying to save for a rainy day. And they go to the other extreme because I know some people, they don't like responsibility. They want to be free. They want to go here, go there. And it's just, they're just always in a mess because of that one extreme. But the other extreme is the person really have the ability to enjoy some life and they don't. They really have the ability to make the best. So when we think about it, where my thought is now, if you think about it, like you have any great movement that ever walked the face of the planet with a person, the person is the great movement. When a person drop dead, the great movement stop. There's nothing after that. You know, you heard of like the great reformer, Martin Luther. Martin Luther in the Dark Ages, and he had his co-worker, so to speak, Melanchthon, or I think it's Melanchthon. And when he passed, and they passed, it's done. You know, what do you hear about the Lutheran Church? Not a thing. It is just an entity that exists. So that all that greatness is just him. And when he passed, that's it. And he don't know. If you ask him then, what's gonna happen after you? You don't know. And we have the history. Nothing. That's it. It's just his work stand, and that's it. And people build a castle around him and his work and his image and idea of him and who he is, and then that's it. And people worship that. And so while a person is living, it's important to have that concept in your mind. Get the best you can out of it, because you don't even know what's going to happen to your children and the children. You could do all you can. You know, you see these people, especially when they're very rich or they're royalty, they're doing everything they can to set the system in place that their kids and the kids after them do great. And for the most part, it's like, you know, they're just there. And they get the benefits, but some of them, they squander it, all of that stuff. You don't know. You know, you hope. So while you can, you know, enjoy some lemonade. While you can, enjoy some juice. Don't do everything in that concept, because, as you know, they have to make their own way. As a matter of fact, one of the things about doing great in life or striving, that I think is very tricky, is that say, and I'm gonna go over some of these in a few minutes. Say you are not doing well, you're striving, you're poor, and you fought, you boxed, you knock food out of the dog's mouth so you can eat, you do everything you can, and you made it. And then you say, man, my child, they're never gonna have to do that. And then now you raise a bubblehead doll, because that child never know to strive, because they're not hungry. And you say, I don't understand. I did and you see, so there's a certain point where you're like, you know, you're going to take care of what you have to take care of with your children, but man, go ahead and enjoy some life. Book a vacation after you finish listening to this talk program. It's okay. Because you can go so much and you make it so comfortable for the next, and they don't enjoy it, because guess what happened? The active ingredient is missing. The main sauce in the soup or in the pot, the main seasoning is missing, is that hunger, that hard knocks, so that they fight back. They don't know how to fight back, because I'll fight for you, son. You know, and I think it messed up people. And so what it is that you see from whether it be a country or a business or a ministry or a church, it tend from one generation to the next, it just go down. So I'm saying all that, I'm going to read it to you again, and then we're going to talk a little bit more. So who know it, what is good for man in this life? Powerful question. All the days of his vain life, which he spent, is as a shadow. Think about it. Bam, it go by so fast. Whatever age you are, you're listening to me. How fast did it go by? How often it's going by so fast that our brain is working, but our body is coming apart. Some of us, even our brain is coming apart. So your brain is still there, so you can acknowledge that, wow, it's going by so fast. And you can see sometimes in the mirror that, man, this thing is going by faster than I can. So he asks a question, who know what is good for man? I'm going to try to answer that. I believe after studying the life of Solomon, And looking at life history and the current life that I've lived, I think I know what life is, and I tell you the answer for it. Squeeze as much goodness and greatness as you can out of this life. That's what's good for man. Get the best that you can, live your best experience, and as I said, not with drugs and alcohol, not with sinning. Sinning is going to give you a bad experience, but live your best experience you can. Squeeze as much goodness out of life and as much greatness as you can, and do that within context of what you can, within your sphere, within your possibilities, because some of this possibility is not my possibility, if you know what I'm saying. Up and down the ladder, a person living in a squalid condition probably is not my possibility. His possibility is to live as best as he can and either get out of that or within that experience. Always believe you have to enjoy the ride or the journey, not the destination only. Along you go along the way, make the best you can out of what you have right now, and still hope for future, but make the best. But some people, they until if they can't get to the end of the journey, they're not going to be happy. So they're unhappy all the way through the journey. You're the wherever I am at is the terminal point. I'm going to enjoy right here, right now, in the moment, and not in a sick, crazy way. Live for today because you're going to die, but in a serious way, because guess what? You don't know what tomorrow brings. And because of that, enjoy today. Somebody said, "But I'm not. I'm going to work today." Enjoy your job. It's. I've learned this over the years. Whatever situation I was in, even I could tell you a terrible situation. I'm in multiple ones, and I always enjoyed it. It is something. You got to get to a point where you can watch a video and see all dead bodies and enjoy your meal. You can just enjoy whatever the situation and suck as much life as you, or squeeze as much as you can out of life. So all the days of his vain life which he spent is as a shadow. So I'm gonna try to answer that more. I think I'm giving away where I'm going. For who can tell a man what shall be after him? So I said, that's a big question. So I believe this is one of the reasons you must be high on life, the goodness of life, and you must excel high on the goodness of life. If you can get a point in your life where you can high on smelling literally a rose, if you like that scent, or looking at a lily or enjoying a beautiful scenery or whatever you're in, just be high in wherever you at on that life. And not the numbing stuff to make you have to escape life. People always want to escape their reality. But you can make the best out of whatever reality you're in. And if you can escape it, you don't escape reality by going into drugs and alcohol. You escape it by changing it. Make a hard change, whatever the situation is, and just get rid of that situation. Job, people, blah, blah. And you get the best out of it. There's a point where if you don't do this, you're going to be sad. Enjoy some life while avoiding as much vanity as possible. Because notice you talk about the vain life. So the more vanity you can avoid, and the more vain, crazy people you can avoid. And people who are not doing anything, not going anywhere, they just want to wallow in their pigsty and their mud. You avoid more of that, you'll find your life going to be just happier. I'm going to tell you. You do that as much as possible, and you will enjoy much life. Because remember now, let's put this in context. Solomon was similar. He's living, Ecclesiastes chapter 6 is similar life he was living. 1,000 wives and concubines, 1,000 total. Plenty of kids. And he was miserable if you read Ecclesiastes. Very miserable. So, imagine all these kids, but it's still a brat. You've been around a brat. They make you miserable. Oh man. I for one don't like being around brats. They make you miserable because it's just they're whining and complaining all the time. And if there's something to whine and complain, they whine and complain. If there's something not to whine and complain, they still whine and complain. And you realize they're whining. You ever been around a person, they always have an excuse. And if the excuse sometimes is genuine, they say, "Oh, my excuse is this," but they always have an excuse. So there's a point where, he wasn't enjoying life. And yet all that wives, all that children, all that money, all that everything, he wasn't enjoying it, and it was a misery. And if he had died in that state, he would have died a miserable person. And you're like, what's the point? So this is why I'm saying is you do this, you try to enjoy life and avoid as much vanity as possible and just enjoy the simple, finer things of life. You know, if you can just be happy with drinking some lemonade or drinking some grape juice and stuff like that, then you just feel good. You just have a good feeling, your nerves feel good, your body, your brain feel good. You're in a good place. I'm not talking about wine, I'm talking about grape juice. When you can enjoy the simple things that won't damage you, won't cause you illness, sickness, won't mess with your mental state, and you can be happy and you can just be joyous. You can look at a person and smile and feel literally good. That's a good place to be. When you have peace in your mind, not all these negative, depressing thoughts, praise the Lord. And you don't have that Solomon experience. You have the experience that Solomon lost while going after all this vanity. So he said, who knows what's going to come after him? Disaster. If you read the stories of Solomon, you realize everything that came after Solomon, Rehoboam and all these people, it's just a disaster in Israel. It was a mess. All of what he did was to destroy Israel. Why? Because he went heavy after vanity. So by doing this, he ended up setting up for the people that came after him to have a terrible experience, if you get what I'm saying. So when you do life where you're high, has been like high on drugs, but high of life, the goodness of life, and you excel, you tend to make it better for the person come after you. No, you still don't know what they're gonna do because you know you could just be like a bum that you have as an inheritor. But this is the best way to secure a better life. He messed up everybody. You see, the blessings that he got was because of his father. If he had tried to walk more in the way of his father, the right things that the father did, he would have blessed the people after him. By going heavily after vanity, he cursed the people after him. Think about so many people today that they have kids and they're going to drop dead today on a drug overdose and mess up their kids. Think about the flip side of it. How many people who they can say, I was blessed because my parents were faithful to God and they lived a good life. Not I'm talking about these hypocrites, you know, in the church and faking Christianity, but they truly were living a Christian life. How much they were blessed by that. So you have to think about it. The less vanity and the more you can squeeze some goodness and greatness out of this life, is the better it is even for your future and is better it is for people who come after you. You can really know the answer to that. But you can know the person who live an ungodly life. The people that come after them is guaranteed they're going to be messed up. You get the flip there. Hopefully you saw where I flipped that. Do you think about it again? Abraham. Abraham lived a good life. He lived a very successful life. He lived a life that many people have not been able to live. Remember, Abraham was not just dealing with the regular people traveling through selling stuff. Abraham dealt with a lot of people as they traveled the Silk Road Trail. I think that's what we modernly think it's called. So we don't know how far Abraham blessing took. Abraham blessing could have gone all back to China because he was in that general vicinity, what we call the Middle East. So as people traveling from all the way from China, the Far East, and coming to Africa, to Europe and back, they would have had the opportunity to interact with Abraham. And Abraham blessing would have gone far. So what's your choice in life? You could choose to be like an Abraham and to live a life that Abraham lived, an excellent life. An excellent life that he's the most, probably outside of Christ and Moses, he's the most famous person that ever walked the face of the planet. Or you could say, nah, I don't want to live a life like that. I'm going to be a nobody and drop dead a nobody. And then Solomon here in Ecclesiastes says, what's the point? What was all that about? You see, but Abraham, also because of his faithfulness, because Abraham was high on the goodness of life and he excelled. And he enjoyed life and avoided the vanities of life. Abraham was able to secure a blessing for the children after him. This is why it's called Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. This is why it's called Israel, because of his overcoming. His name was Israel is overcomer. When you think about that, the more you live this way, is the better your life is. The more you live as a, say, an alcoholic, as a person that just live How many people today, they're just living. They're never going to do anything special. They're never going to be peculiar. They're never going to look a certain way. They're never going to talk a certain way. They're just going to have the mind of the regular people out there. And they're nobodies. They're ever going to be nobodies. Because that's how they choose to live. That's just the reality. And yet you look at Abraham. He lived a special life. Who was he? He was interacting with kings. He was interacting with Pharaoh. He was interacting with Abimelech. He was interacting with great men. And yet he lived in a tent with with Isaac. Yes, and yet you look at that, you say, man, but this guy was a great man. At that point, he was one of the greatest men. He was so great that he could deliver a city, 2 cities that were kidnapped by kings attacking it. And he could fight back and ally with other people. That's how great he was. And you say, why was he so great? Because he followed the Lord. But he lived a life he was getting the goodness while not being showy and boastful. Because although he had all that power, he didn't say, hey, let's build a city and call his name Abraham. But yet today, how many cities have come and gone? You don't know the name of it, but you know the name Abraham. Out of all the religious around the religion, a major religion around the world, all of them trace their root back to Abraham. That man was great and still is great. There's a lot of people right now that people say great and they're full of vanity, and they'll, they have some movies or they played some sports, and tomorrow they'll be forgotten, but Abraham's name is still here. Very important. Now enjoy some life and avoid the vanities as much as possible. The more you avoid the fluffy, nonsensical stuff that this life has to offer, you really enjoy the things that are valuable in life. You can come down to verse 12, read it and know. For who knoweth what is good for man in this life? I'm going to tell you what is good for man in this life. I just told you. Because the greatest men ever walked the face of the planet, that's how they lived. And all the days of his vain life, he spent it is as a shadow. Notice here, the vain life was him. But you think about a person like Abraham. Abraham lived a good life. A good life. For who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? Well, God told Abraham what was going to be after him after the sun. And also Abraham kids continued the way. Solomon kids didn't continue the way. They went into rebellion and darkness. So it's important. So then the question is, I still have in my topic, squeeze as much goodness. If you talk to a secular person, this is the whole aim of life. Squeeze as much goodness, and life is whipping them. But notice there I put greatness out of this life. Because to me, if you live in the following Christ, what end up happening, the more hard you follow Christ. Not just the mambe-pambe mainline religion, I think, they're right because of some doctrine or something like that. But the more hard you follow Christ, is that word greatness comes up into plain view. You think about we say we bow and we believe God, we access God because of a lowly carpenter. And you think about the phenomenalness of life, and this is the thought now. When you're living life this way, you don't say or you don't get puzzled by the question that Solomon asks. Because, you see, you can be a lowly carpenter and you can make the head spin of 70 PhDs that can't gainsay you. And that's an exciting life. Wouldn't you think that? So, that's exciting. That to me is one of the most exciting prospects in the Bible. And a lot of time when you look at the Bible, that's how the Bible is configured. All the time. What am I saying? A lot of times. It's this concept where you look at someone like Elijah, and you look at them, you're like, they seem very lowly, but they're interacting with kings. Their words are benefiting countless. Their action, they're dealing with larger things. Remember, even, there's texts that we memorize so much, but sometimes we don't hear what the text is saying. See, Paul says you wrestle not against flesh and blood. Imagine the local people around you, that's not your problem. He says you're wrestling against principalities, against powers, against rulers of this dark age, against entities that are much larger. And when you read that, you say, me? Lowly you? But that's what God called you for. God called you to be a royal priesthood. This is not a phrase that most people even understand in church because they're just there like chickens picking, as I saw last night, some chickens picking up little stuff off the ground. They focus on what's on the ground. God said, no, no, no. Rise up. You need to go up in the mountains. You need to soar like an eagle. So you think about Christ a lowly carpenter. That's the narrative of the Bible. And that to me, it outdoes any concept of vanity. Because here you are, and you can fly high. And you can squeeze as much greatness as possible out of this life. And that let it be phenomenal. And when you take the stories of the Bible, you look at the individuals, you see that's the experience God wants to give you and I. He wants us to think in this manner. When we talk about stuff, we're talking about major issues. We're just not talking about, not that says nothing wrong to talk about, the rain that fell this morning and how it watered the earth and all that. That's great. Okay, yeah. But we need to talk about some more important things and get our mind from that, just the regular stuff in life, and be impressed with the regular stuff. Like, stop talking about that. Let's talk about something greater. So look at Christ, the lowly carpenter. That's your inspiration. When you think about a simple fisherman, and there's so many fishermen that walks the face of the planet. In time of Christ, there's only number one. Only probably Caiaphas and John, the Nicodemus, Joseph of Arimathea. There's not much of the Sanhedrin that you ever hear their name or will ever hear their name. They're just like nobodies. They probably was somebody then, but they're just nobodies. But you know John, you know James, you know Peter, because they became great, lowly fishermen, because they squeezed as much goodness and greatness out of this life. They follow Christ, and they follow Christ not as just the generic brand, not as just the regular main line, but it's something peculiar and different. And so I believe in this life, that's what it is. It's important to understand this concept and to receive it into one's life. That whatever you're going to do, wherever you're at, you're going to get the best you can out of it. That means if you're down into the pits of life, you're going to be like, I'm going to get the best out of this life. I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to partake of the best I can under my situation. And you enjoy that ride, and you ride it hard while you're there. And then if things change, you keep going along. But you always get the best. To me, you just always enjoy the ride. And that's it. You don't always look and say, well, what am I going to get 10 years from now? No, well, you get it right now. What are you enjoying right now? How is your life right now? Are you making the best of your situations right now? That to me is the excitement of life. Notice again, we think about how many people were shepherds. One thing that the Lord would do often is teach his people to take care of sheep. And he prepped them that way. You see a lot of people, they want to do something right now. Sometimes you're going to have to take care of sheep. You're going to have to do something small. But while you're doing small, you're doing the best you can. And you're getting the most you can out of the situation you're in. And when better come because time and chance happen to them all, then you're ready. And somebody say you're not ready because you're not doing something great. Yes, a lot of people are depressed because they're not doing the best they can in the situation they are. They're not enjoying life right now, today, and sucking the most they can out of life today because they're waiting for a future experience, a future flight of glory. Have integrity today. Somebody say, if I have integrity, I might lose something. Well, think about it. All the people that we look upon in history and by biblical history as great were people willing to suffer loss because of integrity. And that's what made them great. That's what made their life not vanity. That's what made them remembered. And to me, that's what makes it exciting. To me, it's exciting just to think that you instead of being a nobody, you can be a somebody because you decide to stand for principle, even if you don't stand with the majority. Because the men that we normally see, to me, this is how I don't know if I can encapsulate the word. It's in my mind, and if I don't get it this time, I'll get it in the future. So here we go. Let me see if I can try this. Just imagine, to me, the fun part of it, where a shepherd or a carpenter or something is affecting principalities and powers. That's an exciting ride. I think about Martin Luther again. He's a lowly monk. He's a monk. He still has some education and stuff like that. But he would have lived and died a monk. And you never heard about him. He would have never done anything special in life. But now he's making whole Europe quake. He's affecting the Pope himself has to respond to whatever he says, whatever he does. Have people want to arrest him and people whatever. That's an exciting ride. That's a movie in itself. You watch a movie, you're thinking, man, that was exciting. And yet Martin Luther, he was living that movie. But he could have continued on his knees, crawling up those stairs, doing penance, doing all of that stuff, and being like a little chicken, picking the feed, and just focus on digging up earth, digging up the ground. And that's it. And then he dies. And then now Solomon comes now in Ecclesiastes 6 and say, what was the point? It better nobody didn't even live. Like nobody will never know him. And so many people live like that and die like that. Just live nothing. Just follow along. You know, to have somebody throw a rope around their neck and lead them around. And they believe whatever the masses say and believe and whatever mainline say. And that's their life. Why should you live like that? Why should you be like that? But you think about Martin. That's Martin Luther. That's an excellent experience. That's a good ride. And we're not talking about just being trouble for trouble's sake and causing trouble. We're talking about he basically blessed Europe. You think about this, right? And I've thought about this. It's the amazement of this, right? We read the Bible, right? I don't know if you're familiar with what I'm going to say here, but when you read the Bible, Christ in Matthew 24 says that he's going to, he says, because the wickedness is going to be so heavy in Europe with the papacy that he's going to have to cut it short in righteousness. In other words, the prophecy is 1,260 years. It comes to an end in 1798. But he has to cut it short in righteousness. So he had to basically limit the power of the Catholic Church, else they would just destroy everybody. They would even probably ultimately figure out how to hunt down and kill all the Christians who were in the wilderness. So you say, I'm going to cut their reign short in righteousness. You read that and you say, that's a statement. And then if I ask you, how did he do it? You know, people say, oh, it's the Lord. He did it. Yes, he did. But how? Well, the answer to the question is Martin Luther. It's the reformers. He basically damaged the Catholic Church. He basically put up his thesis up on the wall and laying out all the evils of the Catholic Church, and then kept on writing and preaching. And basically, here comes the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, the setup for the modern day, and the weakening of the hand of the Catholic Church to the point that Berthier could basically go into Rome and arrest him and take him away prisoner. Basically give him the deadly wound. It is through that prophecy this happens. It is through this person here who could have continued on his knees, begging for penance, being a little chicken, never be an eagle, never soar, but God used him in a mighty way. So people always say, oh, don't say certain things because God's going to fix the church. Why is he not fixing it? Because he's not fixing it because you are the pathway, the channel for him to fix the problem. But if you keep being a chicken and you keep picking up stuff, and God said, man, get up and be an eagle. And you be like, no, let me focus here. God, you fix the church. You fix whatever you need to fix. God said, I'm going to use you. See, God used individuals to carry forth. Again, a good example, you go to Revelation 12 and it talks about, Revelation 13, and it talks about that the dragon gave its seat and gave the authority, its seat and its great authority. It came from the dragon. But how did he do it? He did it through the Caesars. It's an individual that carried it out. It's darkness, but it's an individual that carried out the darkness. But you can be that individual. I can be that individual that God used to cause great blessing to come upon the earth and come upon human beings. It might not be everybody. Come Martin Luther King. Sorry, that's another example there. But Martin Luther did not affect everybody, but it affected a lot of people enough to cause a change. The system continued, but the system was kept at bay so that some reformation and light could come to the world. So when you understand this is riding high. Not riding high with drugs and alcohol, not riding high with a bunch of sin, riding high not with all kind of vanity, like what Solomon was doing, but riding high as being something exemplary in life, being someone that's a blessing. If you're going along with everything that everybody's doing, what are you doing special? Nothing. You just being like every other, whatever word you can use to describe them, worthless person out there. They ain't doing nothing special. But when you follow Jesus, the Lord can take a person with a third grade education. Third grade. I've heard people, I'm talking about Ellen G. White there. I've heard people talk negative about Ellen G. White. And I was like, man, let me hear your sermon. All right, that's it. Why are you talking negative? I said, let me hear read a book you write. You hear some of these people, oh, I'm a pastor. Okay. And they start talking negative. I'm like, okay, let me hear what you have to teach. Or you have a person, oh, I'm a theologian, I have a PhD. Okay, so let me hear your PhD. You're saying that she's so off. Let me hear. Let me blown away by your wisdom and exceptionalism. And you hear them and you're like, what? And I must listen to you? You're telling me that this person over here is so great. Who is this person named? Tell me the name of this person. Tell me name of people like Billy Graham or Jerry Falwell or whatever. What? What is he preaching? I don't hear nothing. It's a bunch of noise. Or it's just something that is okay. Give your life to Jesus, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Give me something that is so great that you're going to condemn somebody. That I'm reading their writing and I'm thinking, man, this is unbelievable. As a matter of fact, it's the power, because remember Christ says through Paul says, through your, something like of the fact that through your weakness, because Paul wanted to get a blessing, to get relief of all his problems. And God says, through your weakness, I'm made strong. In other words, that it's more powerful and it's more a testimony of the goodness of the Lord in your life when the Lord can take a person with a third grade education to write things that the world is now catching up to 100 and something years ago. That's powerful. You think about it now, so many super athletes, you call them like the top athletes, are becoming vegan. And you have something 100 years ago saying, hey, look, stop eating that stuff. That's dead carcass. When you have the world as caught up to the problems with, some of the problems with tobacco, this insidious, she called it, poison. And it took so long for the medical world to, with all the PhDs and the microscopes and everything, and we modern, to catch up to the fact that this is an insidious poison. But I'm going to tell you something now. You have the vape, you have the different vaping devices pushing in nicotine right inside of the body. And the world will soon come to realize that it was not just the tar in tobacco that was an insidious poison, but it was also the nicotine itself, an insidious poison that destroyed the nerves. And people are going to realize, okay, so I need my nerves. And it's not good to shock the nerves and to shock it and to poison it. But who would you want to be? You just want to be somebody that, just live, really have enjoy. And as he says, this is what he says here in verse 1 of Ecclesiastes. It says a common thing among men to go through life and really squeezing no goodness. Somebody say, oh, but I drink, you drinking beer, you're not squeezing no goodness out of life. I don't see it. You're taking a whole bunch of drugs, you're not squeezing no goodness out of life. And some people, that's all the goodness they get in life, literally. And that's why they're so depressed and have to take more drugs. But when you live in a life in Jesus Christ, and you've learned to even inhale and get some goodness, to just inhale some goodness out of life. You've learned to enjoy people, enjoy good food, enjoy good fellowship with others, enjoy life, nature, just enjoy exercise, enjoy things that make you feel good. You feel good physically, mentally, socially, spiritual exercises. This is why I came to a point where I realized, wait a minute, I need to enjoy my Sabbath. And I think somebody should join as I enjoy my Sabbath. But I realized people wanted to say, oh, but we need to minister, we need to take care of whatever. Yeah, I need to take care of whatever. But I still need to enjoy my Sabbath. It's I need to enjoy a night of sleep, because I've had people like all day long they have a problem and they want to call you 10 o'clock. Well, you're gonna die with your emergency unless it's a true emergency. But you can have your emergency all day long and they want to keep me from sleeping. It's being silly. And people are like that. You need to enjoy some life. There's a certain point where you have to realize, you see somebody suffering, you have to realize sometimes you can't talk to many of these people. You cannot talk to them and they're going to keep suffering. So there's a certain point where like you make an effort, you do what you have to do, you put the material out there, you try to put it in their hands, you do what they have to do, and you go to sleep. Because they less worry about themselves than you worry about them more than they worry about themselves. And those are things you had to learn in ministry. That you could cry and weep over a person like, hey, what's the big deal? I'd be like, oh, okay. I think we won't be doing no all night prayer for you tonight. We're going to sleep. We saw pray for you when you join us to pray for yourself. And that's what it is. You see, you just keep going with life. You enjoy life. So you think about it, how you want to be. You just want to be a person that say you lived and you existed. And, you had some chicken. You drink some beer. Because beer tastes good. It doesn't, I'm just saying. The person saying that. And, you worked. You had some kids. And now you retire. Are you looking up into the ceiling and thinking, what was life about? What is for life? What's the point of life? Or you could be a person like a lowly carpenter who shook the world, shook the Roman Empire. Or like some fishermen who left the fishes and became world famous. Or shepherds. When I was young, I don't know how true this is, but I think they said some statement they attributed. I don't know how true it was. Tell me if I'm wrong. But it's a statement they attributed to the Beatles because they said they attracted more people. When they were young, I guess, they attracted more people than Jesus. And then I read the Bible, and the Bible said, no, not really. Because they say, I guess he feed 5,000, but there's time when the Bible says he had an innumerable company of people you couldn't count. But anyhow, so I remember hearing it, and I thought about it over the years. And one day clicked me, I said, wait a second. Because later I remember finding out about the Beatles, because they're supposed to be so great, right? I found out about the Beatles that it came to a point that they disliked, but they disliked, and they didn't like performing anymore. Because they will go to a performance and the girls will be screaming so hard that they couldn't even hear themselves on the stage. They could just couldn't. It's like they weren't performing. And I just thought about that. This is vanity of vanity. So you're there to play a song. So I'm here to sing my song. My song is about song because I sing the song. I say, like Neil Diamond, they sing the song that makes the young girl cry. So they were literally singing the songs that make the young girls cry. So they'll be screaming and probably tearing off their clothes and underwear and all that. And you're there, you're a musician, true and true. You want to really play the song because that's what they pay you to do. And they're so excited that they're not there to hear the song. They're just there to, because you're on the stage, just there to scream. Ah. And you'll be like, what's the point? This don't make no sense anymore. This become foolishness. And that's life. It's like foolishness. Like that. That's a vain life. It's like, you're doing something vain and it become even more vain and you can't imagine how vain it is. Like, what's the point? They're just there screaming and like, okay, settle down now. Let's start this song. And you start the song again and they start screaming again. You'll be like, you could be up there just making a bunch of noise and screaming and they wouldn't even hear that you're not performing. And that's, to me, is not squeezing the goodness of life. And that was not what Christ was doing. You read about Christ, you read a total different experience. See, this is what the difference now. See, Christ's experience, when I read, the Bible says that Christ preached to people, teach the people were hungry. And then Christ, there's a young man with some food. He has 5 loaves of bread and some fishes. And Christ sat the people down, started multiplying the bread and the fishes, and fed the people. And the people sat down orderly and ate. Now imagine in a modern time, if you're dealing with these people, they'll get out the cell phone. They started sharing social media. If it was younger, they would start to scream and make noise, and that's not Christ. It was not a vain experience. It was a experience that brings you, it's dignified, it's respectable, it's amazing, but yet it's orderly. It is a quality experience, not just something that. So yeah, so you could boast and say, oh yeah, in the beginning of your career because you're young and stupid. Oh yeah, we did more than whatever. So you become, have a godlike complex, and then you realize what you're doing, bro, is nothing. You're just having a bunch of crazy, hormonal filled young girls screaming. What is that? And I say, tell me something that's new. But Christ here did something that is totally can't be talked about. It just totally blows the mind. People are hungry and they're able to not rush Christ and start grabbing the fish and the loaf. They didn't mug the little boy and steal his loaf. That's what they would do. But that's what Christ was doing, something great. And you can do something that is beyond the norm, that even make people who are bright, so to speak, that claim they're bright, blow their mind. Like, how can he do that? When people are hungry, they act barbaric. But yet, you could sit them down while they're hungry, and they could wait their turn as he breaks the bread. Then he feeds them. And you say, how could a lowly car, the Sanya, probably they even Eto, the Pharisees couldn't do that. They couldn't order the people. That's one thing I learned when I was in the church, going to a regular mainline church and observe how the Pharisees run the church, and the Sadducees, the people not really with them. They just go to church because, they're hoping that the pastor would pray them into heaven when they die at the funeral. But maybe they're not, there's no control or kind of connection with the people like that. The people are just there. Keep that in mind. That's what I observe. So you can have an unreal experience and a ride that you could have a person, and you could have almost everybody that is a billionaire not having a ride you're having, not experiencing what you're experiencing because you're experiencing a different ride. I always say I love what the Lord has done for us and for people around me that I've observed, that the outcome is phenomenal because of the blessing of the Lord. When you look at what a person can come from or what they can become because of the blessing of the Lord, how they can have a quality life and living as kings and queens without the king and queen money, then I say that's the answer to Solomon's question. Solomon asks a very valid question, but it is in Jesus Christ that this vanity is removed and the power of life is taken in. And you don't have to be a person who needs drugs to get you through the day because life is so depressing, your mind is so screwed up, as they say, and messed up. You can have peace that passeth all understanding. A person can understand how you have that peace, how you have a rich experience, but you're not per se rich. You don't have the type of money that somebody needs to have that certain experience. You can live a life of integrity, of honor, of dignity, and yet you're not a king, but you live in and carry yourself as if you're a king or a queen. Because the Lord has blessed you. I'm going to read it one more time for you thinking. For who knoweth what is good for man in this life? I'm going to tell you that's what's good for man in this life. That's the answer to it. At least that's what I know. So they say, how you know? Solomon is the wisest man. I didn't know because he was a wise man given a blessing by the Lord, but he almost died a fool. So when he looked at life, he's like, I don't know the answer for this. I'm going to tell you the answer for this. It's the way Jesus lived. Who know what is good for a man? Who know a man that is a nobody to live a life for somebody? That's an excellent ride. You having experiences that people only dream of. And they would want to, and they're killing themselves because they're not having it. And they're hating on other people because they see them coming and they're getting something that they're not get. And it could be all theirs if they would just follow Jesus. But they're trying to have this great experience on drugs and alcohol, this great experience in a secular life. It's not working. Trust me, brothers, it's not working. That's why we're having all these problems in the society. Because people want to live the good life and they want to live the best life. But sin is present, and where sin is present is demoralizing, it's emptiness, it's vanity. So who know what is good for a man? A man that lives in Jesus Christ, that's what's good for you and me. Make you live life. When you have a life and you don't have to have a conscience, so to speak, in the sense of not eating your conscience, but you don't have to walk around always feeling guilty, always feeling regretful, When you can live a life where your brain is, you feel like water running through your brain. You ever look at the spring and it's just clean, mineralized water, and that's how your brain feel. You just feel clean and fresh. You don't feel like, man, I have these regrets. Or you can stand and make your voice be heard. And these people can come and say, hey, who do I'm always glad nobody don't come to me and say, well, who is without sin, no cast a stone, because it probably a wrong day, and I feel like, man, my brain feel clear today, and I don't feel like I'm sinning today. Let's get a stone. It's just a good thing to live a life where you can overcome problems in your life. You have defects. I have defects of character. I make mistakes, make sometimes wrong choices. But I'm just telling you, it's good when you live a life with integrity and stuff like that, and you have Jesus to cleanse you from all unrighteousness. You can be bold enough to say, hey, look, I made a mistake. Can you forgive me? And clean that brain out. A lot of people, I think, they go through life and they never get a purge. Someone said, what do you mean a purge? You mean a physical purge? No. I'm talking about a mental purge. Forgive others. Ask for forgiveness. And then relaxed. Many people go through, they're burdened with guilt. Because what happened, they never met Jesus. They're going through life and they have cares, and they never know to take the care and give it to Jesus. They don't know how sometimes to cut loose of stuff, to break bad habits, to walk away from relationships that are just burdening you. There's some people that talk negative all day long, and guess what happened? It brings you down. But you got to know, when I see all these things going on in society, I say, bad might happen, but God is on the throne. So I can sleep at night. I got to know God's going to take care of these evildoers. I can see oppression happen, and somebody will say, oh, you talk about oppression. Yeah. They get caught up in me talking about it, because I believe God is giving it to them and will give it to all those who do these things. Who promote evil, the evil always come back to them. But when you don't, praise the Lord. So all the days of his vain life, which he spent is as a shadow. See, Abraham didn't live a vain life. Jesus didn't live a vain life. The multiple shepherd like Moses started a vain life. That's where Pharaoh wanted him. But Moses walked away from that vanity, and he lived a life that is not vain. The lowly monk called Martin Luther became great and didn't live a vain life from the point he realized, man, get up. Why are you here on the step, acting like a chicken? A bit paying obeisance and penance and all that. Man, get up and be a man. And the moment you start thinking like that, you're a man in Jesus Christ. But when they have you like a fool and you're there and you can't speak up, and people are doing wrong and you can't say, hey, that's wrong, because you don't want to offend certain people, you're not a man. You're not having a good ride. Somebody say, yeah, but some of these men, they spoke up like Martin Luther King Jr. and the guy shot. So what? He died great. We all going to die. How many people today going to die for drug overdose? What did they do in life? Isn't it better to have that ride? You had a good ride. We're going to all die one day anyhow, but at least have a good ride. Solomon had a good ride before he became a fool, and after he woke up from being a chicken and being controlled by all these outlandish women, he had a good ride again. That's where you have a good ride. You have the best ride in this life, and you won't have to have an experience. You'll be like, man, what was the point? It's just getting up every day and just eat and sleep, and that's all life is. How many people that's all life is for them? Just get up and eat and sleep. They have no other value to life. So for who can tell a man what shall be after him under the sun? I'm going to tell you. Abraham knew what was going to be after my son. God said it to Abraham. God said, Abraham, you're going to order your kids after you, and I trust you because of that. I'm going to bless you. And God was so right about Abraham. Solomon, after him, curse came. Who knows? Well, I'm going to tell you who knows. God knows. You know. How are you living? You're living for Jesus? What's the example you set to your kids? You're setting kids an example of integrity. A person that's having a good ride. A person that's having a good go at it, because they're not following the multitude. They're not with the multitude. Or are you just somebody that focus on things that chickens focus on? You focus on higher principles, higher things. You squeeze as much goodness and greatness out of this life, and it will be surely a good ride. You go like everybody else and live like everybody else, and you'll surely have a ride also. It's just a ride to nothingness. We don't want to be like that. We want to be just a common experience, and experiencing thing that is just common among men. What's the point? Do something great today. Stand up for somebody today. Have some integrity today. And that's going to be a nice ride. When you see people like, huh, They're shocked because you have integrity and you stand up for the poor or the whatever. You then do something different. God will bless you. Be like everybody else. Let us pray. Our Father who art in heaven, I thank you for your experience, the experiences that you give us through the word. I thank you for the Holy Spirit, dear Lord, that gives us boldness, not only to come to thee and come before thee and present or apply our case before thee whenever we have wronged, but, dear Lord, to also be willing to, dear Lord, stand up for others and to stand for the right though the heavens fall. May you be with us, dear Lord, and may we live a good life in this life and squeeze as much goodness that you wanted us originally to squeeze out of this life. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live Monday morning where we should talk about motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk for the King.